Coordinated, episode 312, April 2026, monthly action items. Greetings, AP coordinators. I'm Karli Suge, school counselor and AP coordinator.
And I'm Abby McCrate, also a school counselor and, of course, AP coordinator. Thanks for joining us. It's Monday, April 6, 2026, and Karli and I are here to talk about what's happening this month for us as AP coordinators.
And what a month it is. It's April, the month before May, the month before AP exams begin.
Oh, that's right. We are almost there, friends. Almost. But before we can start testing, we want to talk about one absolutely essential element to a successful exam administration. And that is, can you guess, Karli? If this podcast has prepped us, AP coordinators, and AP teachers have prepped our students, who else is so important to a smooth and efficient exam season?
Since you said who else, not what else, I know what that means. That sounds a lot like proctors.
Correct. I knew you'd get that, Karli. You're reading my mind. And while proctors don't have to be mind readers, although bonus if they are, they do have to read instructions, take attendance, and monitor testing. They are absolutely critical to our students' success on exam day.
Totally. So today, let's focus on the penultimate action item for the year, preparing proctors. We'll review proctor eligibility, proctor training, and proctor responsibilities. It's almost time for AP testing, Abby. Buckle up. It's definitely time to get coordinated.
Hello, Karli. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Things are moving. Seniors are coming down and telling us where they're going next year. 10th graders are excited to become upperclassmen. I can definitely feel that the end of the year is near.
Oh, I hear that. Spring has sprung, as they say. Then there is action all around. That's what it feels like on my campus. Students are busy, they're writing, they're reading, preparing for the last full month of school. Seniors are trying to keep senioritis at bay. We know how hard that is at school. And we AP coordinators are making sure we're ready for next month's AP exams.
That's right. Talk about action. For me, there are 3 key features to April. 1, it's always a busy month. 2, it kind of has a festive vibe to it. We're starting our spring break this week, so that's exciting. And 3, it's when I train my proctors for AP exams.
Same, always. Thank you, April, for being the month we can count on for a little fun and a lot of focus work getting ready for May.
So let's talk about that last point, Abby. The focused work we AP coordinators do, especially when it comes to training proctors for AP exams. Let's review the first action item for getting our proctors ready.
Great idea, Karli. Training proctors really starts with making sure the people we've asked to fill the role meet the AP proctor eligibility requirements. So let's quickly review those.
Perfect. I'll start us off. First, proctors must be adults, not students.
That's right, and that's a big one. And we actually have a big pool of eligible adults to choose from. For example, proctors can be active or retired teachers, AP coordinators, other education professionals, for example, counselors and school staff, administrators, and parents without a conflict of interest. Also, remember that if we're using active or retired teachers or any former teachers, including those who are now in different roles, like myself, I'm an AP coordinator. I was once an English teacher, and that could be teachers who are now administrators or counselors. They cannot ever proctor an AP exam in a subject they currently teach or have ever taught. There is a list on page 53 of the AP Coordinators Manual Part 2 of subject areas and AP exams that teachers of those subject areas would not be able to proctor. That table takes the guesswork out of assigning current or retired teachers as proctors, so I highly recommend everybody checks that out.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. I didn't know that about you, Abby, former English teacher.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. So if proctors must be adults, and we know that we have a lot of options within the pool of adults who can be assigned as proctors, let's review what proctors cannot be or do.
That sounds good. Why don't you take it away, Karli?
Sure. They cannot be employed part-time or full-time by a test preparation company. They cannot participate in any coaching activity that addresses the content of secure College Board tests. They cannot take an AP exam or review the content of the exam in any manner. And finally, they cannot proctor an AP exam or handle exam materials in the year in which an immediate family member or household member may be taking that exam at the school where the individual works or at any other school or location. Now, that's straight from our AP Coordinator's Manual.
Great reminders, especially on that last point. I have proctors I've relied on for years, and I've watched their kids grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I have to make sure to check that I don't assign them to proctor an exam that their now high school age kid might be taking.
That's right. Which is why proctor training should start with a list of these proctor eligibility requirements so that our proctors can double check that they qualify to proctor.
Great point. Once you've recruited your proctors, which we know takes some time and effort, then it is time for proctor training. So let's just start, Karli. How do you train your proctors?
Yeah, this is a big one. This has changed for me and my process over the last couple of years after moving to fully digital, hybrid digital, and still having a couple paper pencil exams. I do now a formal sit-down proctor training. I gather everyone and I have a slide deck that I go through that kind of hits the main points that I want them to be aware of, because there are so many differences from some of these proctors that I've had, like you said, for years and years. As things kind of change and evolve within College Board, transparently, a lot of my proctors were a little nervous last year. So getting them all together and doing a sit down, let's talk this out kind of presentation style really worked for me.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And that's fairly similar to what I do. I tend to start with some email exchanges and then move into proctor training. So let me say a little bit about that. Like we said, I tend to keep the same core group of proctors each year with a couple newbies added in. So I'm going to start by emailing them all, that whole group, the details for that year's testing, such as the exam dates. And I also am gauging their availability. So which of these dates are you available? And then once I have them confirmed and assigned to exams, then I send them an email with videos and documents I'd like them to review before our training starts.
I like that. I do the same email situation. When are you available? We do a Google sign up that really helps me, especially with extended time or one-on-one testing. And then I do send them a copy of the slide deck that I'm going to go through. But I would love to know what videos and documents you share. I'd love to compare.
Sure. I'm so glad you asked. I like to share the Proctor Highlights for AP Exams video. And then this year, I'm also going to share the 2 high-stakes testing videos that I recently watched on the AP Coordinator Experience YouTube channel. I have included a link to those videos in the show notes so that our fellow AP coordinators can take a look at the whole library of videos available specifically to help us train proctors.
Yes.
And then the document I share is the AP Proctor Exam Day Guide, which we have also included in the show notes.
Those are great choices of videos. We have quite a few to choose from for proctor training. And I especially appreciate that you highlighted the high stakes testing videos, which do an excellent job of showing proctors what it might look like if a student is trying to gain an unfair advantage by using prohibited devices or writing answers on themselves or their clothing.
Yes, exactly. I find those videos super helpful for that reason. I think the key to successful proctor training is sharing impactful resources. So that means resources that are going to help proctors actually visualize exam day and know how to maintain a secure testing environment. So I share those resources, those 4 things via email, and then I talk with proctors about them in person. But what about you, Karli? Like once you have them all assembled, I guess, where do you go from there?
Yeah, so we meet for that formal proctor training. I get them coffee. They're my best friends the first 2 weeks of May, so I need to thank them ahead of time. Thank you in advance, proctors at Costa Mesa High School. And then we go through the slide deck, and in the past, I had shown them a demonstration of, and I know we're going to get to this, of Test Day Toolkit, just to kind of talk through what the day looks like from start to finish and have them be able to see the features and everything that they might have some questions about. But what about you, Abby? How do you do it?
Let's see. So once I have sent them those resources that I want them to review, we settle on a time to meet. However, I find that I usually have to end up meeting with some of them one-on-one. And I especially actually prefer to meet one-on-one with those that are proctoring pencil and paper exams. So I usually ask them to stay if they're coming to the team training, ask them to stay a little bit. So, for example, world language, music theory exams, I want to review the scripts and the timing with those proctors since they're still in charge of timing for pencil and paper exams.
Right.
And then when I meet with a whole group, though, I share key details, kind of like it sounds like you're sharing in your slides, which would be the time that I need them to arrive on campus, where I want them to park on campus. I give them my cell phone number so that they can contact me with any issues before, during, after the exam. But most importantly, I use that time together to share what Test Day Toolkit looks like.
Yes. Test Day Toolkit, or TDTK, as we like to call it for short. You know, that's the main tool used to proctor digital AP exams in Blue Book. It definitely makes sense to see to it that all proctors of digital exams know all about TDTK.
Exactly. And whether or not your school has extensive experience with digital exams, whether or not your proctors are veterans, TDTK evolves every year, and this one is no exception. So I have my group bring their own devices to our meeting so that they can open Test Day Toolkit and we can review its use. And in particular, this year, we will go over the new Proctor Preview mode together ahead of time.
I love that. I haven't considered them bringing their own devices before, but I think that that's a great idea for them to be able to view the Proctor Preview on their own device and kind of feel more comfortable with the inner workings of it before test day.
Exactly. I think probably what's going to be the most helpful step of my training now is going to be using Proctor Preview. I don't know, seems like it. It feels like it'll be time well spent because that's going to also give me the chance to go through each step of digital testing and to share notes along the way. So, for example, when Proctor Preview shows them information about preparing the room for student arrival, I can review how they will create seating charts, how they will distribute items like scratch paper and hybrid digital free response booklets.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You know, I also utilize proctor training to talk about school-specific things that we will be doing, like how we're taking attendance, what happens if a student has to go to the nurse's office, you know, things like that, as well as what to expect first thing in the morning and what they should have with them.
Oh, like the proctors, like the items that like they should have in the testing room. Nice. That's smart. I think I usually just rely on myself, but it's helpful for them to know I should be supplying you with these things, right? I should make sure you have extra scratch paper and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I love that. I always learn so much from talking with you and other AP coordinators. Now, I know I mentioned earlier how I use the proctor training videos on the AP Coordinator Experience YouTube channel to help me with my proctor training. But there are also some excellent new videos in the SSD playlist on that channel, such as a video about how to provide the accommodation of a human reader and a video about how to help students utilize their text-to-speech accommodation. One thing we haven't talked about yet is training proctors for proctoring exams for students with accommodations. And that requires providing those proctors with additional information. Now that we have these wonderful videos that we can watch, maybe even share with our proctors, I think that will help us explain exactly how exams with certain accommodations will work.
Right. That's amazing. And like you mentioned, kind of keeping some proctors after for a little extra training. I do that for my proctors that are proctoring exams for students with accommodations, just to go over some of these specific things for the students that they will be working with, kind of answer their questions ahead of time. There are some additional things that they want to know ahead of time, and that gives us the space to do that. And I love that there's so many videos that exist as resources for us. They give us a way to gain knowledge, both for ourselves as AP coordinators in a really quick way, as well as our proctors.
Absolutely. And speaking of gaining knowledge, remember how last month I shared some great updates to Test Day Toolkit that will help us as AP coordinators? Remember how I shared the Test Day Live and the Proctor Preview features?
I do, yes. That was very fun of you to drop those updates and get us so excited to use Test Day Toolkit again this year.
It was fun of me, wasn't it?
It was.
Nothing if not fun. I know how busy we get as AP coordinators during the spring months, and I want to bring us all some excitement and some things to look forward to.
Oh, nice.
So today, I'm excited to share some updated features of Blue Book, some things that will be new for our students this year.
Oh, I'm excited to hear what those updates are.
Great. Well, here we go. First, on each student's exam card in Blue Book, where it says the name of their exam and if they're receiving any testing accommodations, Blue Book will now show a message that directs students to their coordinator for the correct arrival time and location of that exam. I appreciate the addition of that message because I want students to be on the lookout for my email with details about the exam, and I want them to know it's me, the coordinator, who is setting the location and arrival times. Like I wouldn't want them to see a stock message, this exam begins at 8 a.m. I want them to know, I'm going to tell you have to come at 7:30 so that we can make sure everybody's ready by 8 a.m. That message keeps the emphasis on me as the person they should know and ask questions of if they have them.
I love that. Letting students know that we AP coordinators are here to help is a great message to send before test day.
Exactly. And I think the other Blue Book update I have to share is one that both AP coordinators and students will appreciate.
Okay, let's keep those updates coming.
All right. Well, this next one is about device swaps. I'm happy to say that there is going to be some helpful new information provided to students and proctors to improve the success of device swaps. Messaging has been added in Blue Book and Test Day Toolkit to encourage troubleshooting on the initial device before performing a device swap. In Blue Book, students will now see a message that shows when their progress was last saved, in addition to where they'll resume their test. This should help inform students of the best course of action to take with their proctor.
That sounds incredibly helpful. That can be a really stressful situation for a student, and to be able to read that messaging would feel very reassuring. I feel like most of my students who were asking for device swaps last year were nervous about their battery life of their Chromebook. And I think we've kind of reframed that messaging of let's talk about chargers and where to sit you and all of that. So actually experiencing, like something with their exam and not knowing where their last progress was saved would be so scary. So it's really nice to know that they're going to have that message and reassurance.
Definitely, because I did have a couple of students who really needed to use device swap last year. I had read the instructions in the proctor guide that said, use device swap when all other options have failed. And device swap did work really well for those students. But there is always, as they're doing it, that question of like, is this going to pick up right where I left off? And so I totally appreciate having additional messaging and information so that we're all informed about using it in the moment.
Right. Wow, Abby, these are some great updates.
I agree. Thank you for talking with me today, Karli, about all things proctor related. I feel like I am ready for proctor training. I've got some new ideas to try out and some brand new videos to help make this the smoothest testing year yet.
Well, it's my pleasure. Because not only do we coordinate testing, but we train proctors, support their work, and make sure they know how to help students. And having these discussions, sharing ideas, and staying in the know, all of it. Hey, getting ready. And as you said, ready, 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 triple ready. It keeps both coordinators and proctors very, well, coordinated. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Karli and I will be back with you in May to share what we're working on for the month. Hint, it's testing. 1 month from today, AP exam season will be upon us. Deep breath, everyone.
That's right. And we'll be here to support you, making sure that you feel confident and energized, ready to facilitate exams in the best way possible, in the way that only an AP coordinator can. AP coordinators, we are truly good as gold.
And maybe I just don't know. I'll say it over and over and over again till I believe it's so. I'm good as gold.
Hey, AP coordinators, are you looking for quick answers to those common tasks we do in AP registration and ordering?
Especially some that we only do once a year, which, side note, Karli, for me, that is changing AP art and design portfolio types. I always need reminders about how to do that.
Absolutely, me too. Or would you like to teach your students how to troubleshoot their account login challenges before they come to you?
If you answered yes to these questions, have we got the place for you?
The AP Coordinator Experience YouTube channel houses 4 different playlists as well as the Coordinated Podcast.
That's right, Karli, and it's an excellent resource. The playlist that might help us the most is the AP Registration and Ordering playlist. This features over 10 short videos on how to do everything in AP Registration and Ordering, from how to create a class section to, my personal favorite, how to switch AP Art and Design exams, to how to switch students to late testing.
Support for AP students includes a video to help students troubleshoot any challenges they have when logging in to their College Board accounts. This is a favorite and a great way to ensure that our students are ready for exams in May.
We also have playlists for coordinators, the back-to-school workshops, and, cue the excitement, a new playlist coming in January that will really help us out with another big topic. Stay tuned.
Visit the AP Coordinator Experience YouTube channel for all these videos and more.